Hey, how's it going guys? Chris here and welcome to another Battlefield 1 weapon guide. Today I'm going to be focusing on the level 10 support gun, the Huot Automatic, which is a full auto LMG and can be unlocked by grinding through those support levels. So when the First World War kicked off, forcing many of the world's militaries to become involved, it was apparent that quite a lot of them just didn't have enough weapons to arm their troops. The Canadian Army was one of these militaries, which had a severe lack in any kind of light machine gun. So in 1916, an engineer called Joseph Huot came along and developed his very own Frankenstein weapon, by heavily adapting the already existing Canadian straight pull Ross rifle, a gun that Canada already had in large quantities just lying around. The ingenious gas-operated drum magazine-fed Huot Automatic Rifle was born, and was almost unrecognisable from the Ross rifle which it originated from. Featuring a similar cooling shroud to the Lewis gun, and sheathing its mechanisms in sheet metal, the Huot rifle was a very clever and resourceful development which actually worked surprisingly well. It was subjected to military testing and proved to be a success. It was 10 pounds lighter than the Lewis gun, could handle muddy conditions, and of course it boasted some seriously lethal automatic firepower. But the main thing that really set the Huot apart from other existing guns at the time was the fact that it was so damn cheap to produce. To rebuild a Ross rifle and convert it into a Huot only costed about $50. To buy a brand new Lewis gun, well, you were looking at more like $1,000, which made the Huot rifle an absolute bargain in comparison. After more field testing took place in 1917, soldiers who got to try it out mainly gave the gun positive feedback, and the weapon was approved pretty quickly, leading to an order requesting the purchase of 5,000 Huot rifles for the Canadian Army in October 1918. Just as the Huot Automatic was about to become the successful weapon that the Canadian Army was looking for, the Great War just kind of ended, and the order was never fulfilled, meaning the gun never actually saw any action. The design was dropped on its head, and unfortunately for Joseph Huot, his inventive idea left him $30,000 out of pocket, which by these days standards equates to around about $450,000, which is a lot of bloody money to lose. It could have been a huge success had it been developed earlier, and the Huot Automatic Rifle remains to be the forgotten gun that almost made history, but never quite reached the fame that it probably deserved. Now in Battlefield 1, the Huot Automatic can be used on a support loadout, but only when you've reached support level 10. With it being the final base game support weapon to unlock, just like with the other class's high tier weapons, there's only one version of the gun available, with that being the low weight variant. This means that it's going to have the same perks as the other low weight weapons in the game, with a 67% faster recoil recovery rate than other non-low weight variations. So tap and burst firing with the Huot might seem more accurate than with some of the other support weapons, as the gun sights are going to reset back to their original position faster whenever you let go of that trigger. You'll also have a bipod too for planting down to accurately take out the opposition from stationary positions. So make sure you utilise it whenever you're holding down an area and need that extra stability to back you up. So swiftly moving on to the stats next, the Huot Automatic's damage readings are pretty much identical to the Lewis guns, as it's got a maximum damage of 23 up to 11 meters, which then declines over distance to 15 beyond 46 meters. That means that just like the Lewis gun, it should take between 5 to 7 bullets to take out another player with full health. Close range damage is on par with all of the other support guns, though its minimum damage figure is the lowest, meaning it's going to be slightly weaker than most of the other LMGs at long range, and it'll often require that extra 7 bullet to finish them off because of this. Other than having one of the weakest damages over distance, the Huot also fires at a slow speed of just 475 RPM. It's not the slowest, with the Benema C firing 25 rounds per minute less, but it's still not exactly a bullet hose, and as far as fire rate and time to kill is concerned, the Huot's probably going to feel a bit like the Lewis gun, with them both sharing a fairly similar rate of fire and damage values. So the Huot might not exactly be a very strong or powerful gun, and it might not be able to rapidly blitz through your opponents in heated gunfights, but one thing it's really good at doing is keeping its cool. Where other automatic rifles might bounce all over the place as you hold down that trigger, the Huot doesn't, and it's actually got the most accurate recoil pattern, not just out of the low weight variants, but out of the storm variants too, making it the most accurate support weapon. And this is reflected by that extremely low horizontal recoil value of 0.08. It's not the most stable however, and the gun is still going to jump upwards a little bit, with that 0.28 vertical recoil, but it's not really all that much and it should be fairly easy to control. With it being a low weight variant, burst firing is going to be more of a viable option too, which should help you counter any upwards drifting that the gun might be subjected to in full auto. But generally, the Huot's got a really solid recoil pattern, and your bullets are going to go exactly where you want them to most of the time. Magazine size is slightly on the smaller side, with the gun being able to fire 26 rounds per reload. It's not as low as the Browning rifle, but it's still probably not quite enough to back you up when you run around a corner only to bump into an entire enemy squad. It's enough to kill a few enemies in one go, though you'll still need to reload quite frequently, and stay aware of your ammo count, especially when rushing objectives. But anyway, as a whole, the Huot Automatic is the support weapon to pick for anyone who likes to be precise. If you want to be on target, then the Huot's extremely accurate recoil pattern will definitely help you out. And when you combine this with the fact that it's a low weight variant with a much quicker recoil recovery rate, and decked out with that bipod for almost pinpoint precision when it's being used, well, you don't really need to worry much about your bullets missing, so long as your aim is on point. With a weaker damage at longer ranges and a generally slower RPM, these factors mean that it's probably not the ideal weapon for mowing down gangs of enemies quickly one after the other. And those smaller magazines are gonna add to this, often making it even harder to win gunfights and survive hectic battles up in the front lines. But if you consider yourself as a bit of a passive-aggressive and slightly defensive player, then a Huot Automatic might be worth the grind. So thanks for watching guys. If you enjoyed the video, give that like button a smack, and that'll be much appreciated. And if you haven't already, subscribe to see loads of other videos just like this one. Take it easy, and I'll see you in that next video.